This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Kevin DeMeritt. We're speaking one of my favorite subjects, gold and silver and precious metals. And I've been a precious metals bug since 1971. And I own lots of gold and silver, and today some Bitcoin, even some Ethereum. And the reason I do that is very simple. It's not because I love gold, silver, Bitcoin, and all that. I just don't trust my government. And if you trust our government, trust the dollar, trust the stock market, trust Fauci, trust all those high-paid government academic elite bureaucrats to watch out for you, then fine, But I'd rather trust gold, silver especially, because they're God's money. God put them here on earth. They're actually elements of the periodic table. In case if you don't know what that is, I think it was chemistry class, but I cheated that class also. So today is a very special show. Again, we have Kevin DeMeritt. He is the founder and operator of the largest precious metal firms in America, Lear Capital. And for full disclosure, I do speak for them. When people say, and I'm not compensated, and people say, well, why do you speak for free for Lear Capital? I said, because when all my friends on Fox television, I know people hate Fox, but anyway, whatever, when they see me on Lear Capital ad endorsing silver, the moment you make television, people think you know something. Well, I still don't know anything, but I'm on television every night of the week speaking for Lear Capital saying I love silver. Now, my other friend is Peter Schiff, who also has Schiff Gold and all this stuff, but he doesn't do any advertising, so I don't speak for him. So if you get that, Peter? So this is nothing personal. I mean, I just trust gold, silver, and I trust Bitcoin and Ethereum more than I trust the government or anybody else. So with that said, I've been speaking for Lear Capital for years. I thank you, Kevin, for making me famous. I go to my Republican or my more conservative enclaves where the rich and possessed go to mingle, and they go, oh, I saw you on Fox television. They go, yeah, and they think I know something. That's even funnier.
That's great, Happy. I think you know a lot more than you're letting on.
I just don't trust Fauci. I don't trust Biden. I don't trust Kamala. I don't trust the Fed, and I don't trust the Treasury. I mean, it's that simple. I'd rather trust God's money, gold, silver, platinum, palladium. I'd rather trust that stuff than criminal bureaucrats. And with that said, Kevin DeMeritt, welcome to the Rich Dad Show, and thank you for making me a famous man, and people think I know something. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert. It's always great to be back. Happy to do business with you all these years, and always love being on the programs.
Thank you. Before we go on, can you give us a little bit of your background? You're a young guy, I'm an old guy, but I remember when the U.S. dollar was real money. It was backed by gold until Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard in 1971, August 15th. And that's when I shifted from cash to gold, silver, and now crypto. So what's your background there, Kevin?
Well, I'm glad you asked. When he took the dollar off the gold standard, I was a whopping 6 years old. So I'm 56 years old today. But I started off in finance and economics, got into international banking. And through international banking, we actually worked with the precious metals market because we could capitalize banks with a universal currency as opposed to it back then. It was the euro. It wasn't the euro. It was the lira and all sorts of different currencies in Europe. And
what Kevin is saying is before the European Union, all the countries had their different fiat. Fiat stands for fake money, government declared money. So what happened is they shifted to the euro. And that's what Kevin's talking about. So now it's euro, not lira and yen and peso. Yep.
And so when we started using gold, I became very interested in gold at the time and said, I'm going to venture out on my own. This looks like real money, with all the printing that was going on even back then. And so, here I am 25 years later after starting Lear Capital, and it's been a fantastic ride. Really since about 2000, the precious metals market has outperformed the stock market, which has been great for people because how do you purchase an insurance policy and actually get paid back, right? And that's what I think of gold and silver. It's an insurance policy against all of the money printing and craziness that, the government does.
Correct. And you're in Los Angeles right now.
That's right.
And I keep warning Kevin and Dina, they haven't built a wall between California and Arizona yet. So if they start, run quickly, because they're going to lock you guys up over there. The Communist Republic of California. But anyway, so what can you tell us? What's going on? I'm a very simple man. Like I said, I don't trust Janet Yellen. I don't trust Biden. I don't trust Kamala. I don't trust Fauci. But I do trust gold and silver. Now, is that correct that gold and silver are parts of the periodic table of elements?
That's right. Gold,
and
silver.
What does that mean to you?
The what?
What does that mean to you?
It was part of Earth when Earth was formed, right? Yeah. Those are all of the, some of the metals and materials that were made when the Earth was formed, and it's limited.
Right.
Unlike a paper dollar, there's only so much gold, so much silver, so much platinum in the ground that we can pull out. So I think that's really, when I think about gold being around, for 5,000 years, I think people were as excited to find gold as they were about Bitcoin and Ethereum that you're talking about now. Back then, gold probably sounded much like, Bitcoin. Hey, we were using shells and rocks and trading food back and forth. And now we have this money that only has this limited supply. And it stood the test of time. 5,000 years, no other currency in the world has ever lasted that long.
And that's sort of the theory behind Bitcoin. There's only, 21 million coins, so it's a limited supply.
Right.
Is that your understanding? Because I own Bitcoin, but I'm not good at that either. So.
Yeah, 21 million coins. There's probably a couple million that have been lost and people losing their password. So it's probably even a little bit less. So hold on to your password, right? But same concept, limited supply. You've written fantastic books about real estate. Can't build any more real estate, can't make any more gold, but they can sure print a heck of a lot of dollars, and they have.
Correct. So what do you sense is going? And for full disclosure, I've traveled the world. What Kevin is saying about gold and silver. I have been to the top of the Andes looking for gold in these mines. I've been to Mongolia, chasing this place called the Checkerboard, looking for gold and silver. I still own a silver mine in Argentina, and I just bought into one of the largest gold mines in the world in Utah. So I am in the mining side. So people, are you into mining stock? I said, no, I'm into ownership. There's a difference. But if you want to buy mining stocks, again, the reason I don't trust mining stocks is because it's a stock. I want the real thing. Are you kind of that? I'm pretty hard-headed and hard-assed.
Yeah, with mining shares, a few additional risks come along with it. I don't know what the CEO is going to do tomorrow or the next day that would influence the company stock more than just the metal price. They hedge a lot. When metal prices are up, they hedge. They did this in year 2000, and they were wrong. Gold was trading at 300 and went up to 600 and 900. They had to sell their precious metals at 350 because they had hedged the market wrong. So there's other dynamics that happen when you own a stock as opposed to the physical metal. But, hey, look, a little diversification doesn't hurt in either one, quite frankly.
Yeah. So what's going on in the gold and silver market as far as supply and demand going? Well,
gold's had a great little run through the pandemic. We saw an enormous amount of demand coming through from the pandemic. And that seems to be continuing here. And one of the reasons is that when you hear inflation's running at 7%, which we haven't seen for 44 years, the last time we saw inflation this high was 1978. And for all of your listeners, from 78 to 1980, it doubled again. Inflation went up to 14%. A lot of money printing back then, so a lot of money printing today. So the demand for things like Bitcoin and Ethereum and precious metals have been high, and I would suspect that we're going to see continued high demand, especially when they start raising interest rates and the stock market and other markets, may have some problems.
Okay. And so what do you think of what I call paper gold, like an ETF or paper silver, SLV, silver ETFs? What do you think of those?
I don't have much interest in those. If someone called us and said, hey, look, I want to own physical silver, or I want to own some silver, and I'm thinking about an exchange traded fund, I would say, okay, well, if I told you I was going to sell you physical silver, and then I was going to ship it off to, HSBC Bank over in Europe somewhere, and we were going to hold it there, would you do it? And most of the time people say no. And I said, well, that's exactly what you're doing with the ETF. And by the way, not all of the ETFs hold 100% of their stock in physical silver. They use hedging and futures and options contracts up to 20%, sometimes even larger. So 80% may be backed by physical gold. The other 20% is just a bunch of paper again. So I tend to shy away from them.
Again, it goes back to what I call the fake market, the human-generated market. So you could say I have an option to buy 100 ounces of gold, but that's still an option. It's not the gold. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. And there's been times in the past 10 years where you had an option to purchase it and there wasn't much silver to purchase. So prices continued to go higher and real problem. The physical material sometimes gets very difficult. We've had a couple in the past 4 or 5 years with the U.S. Mint just completely running out of silver. And prices have skyrocketed. So physical in your hand usually is, in my opinion, and yours, better than holding the piece of paper that gives me the right to potentially take it physically.
And just not that long ago, these are the big banks like JP Morgan, Wells, and all that. They have gold and silver also. Was there one of these banks caught that paid $1 billion fine or something for playing games? Well, do you mind saying? If you don't want to say, I don't blame you. But
it was the bank that you mentioned, JP Morgan, got themselves a little bit of issue with the silver markets and their traders manipulating the markets.
What do you mind saying? Because I didn't understand it because I don't play the markets. I own the real stuff.
Yeah, so they own the real stuff, and then the paper markets can be manipulated. So they would put in orders and then cancel them, which would drive up the price, and then they would go and sell some of their material to make a profit. So there was a lot of manipulation going on. When you have that much money, you can kind of move some markets with, fake buy or sell orders, and that's what they were doing.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I stay away from the dollar, because it's fiat. Fiat means government decreed. That means Biden saying, trust me. He can't even remember his name, but he's going to say, trust me. But anyway, and then Kamala, oh my God, the border czar, or whatever she is. And they opened the border up and going, oh my God.
Yeah.
Are we nuts? Has this country gone nuts?
Well, a little bit. And from a financial standpoint, you look at a few things. You look at scarcity of computer chips, of metals, that is what happened in 1970. For anybody who wasn't around in 1970, you had to get in line to get gasoline, if everybody remembers that, right? Some of those same things are starting to happen. And then you look at the inflation rate, all the way back to 1978. I don't believe anybody thought that we would get an inflation rate at 7%, still have interest rates below 3%. So, you're a real estate expert. What happens if inflation stays at 7%, mortgage rates? 9%? The real estate market would get crushed at 9%. It would probably fail dramatically at anything over 6 or 7%, if I had to guess. So this inflation rate that we have and the scarcity of products out there or materials is a big caution sign, I believe, for people over the next couple of years. Higher interest rates, so on and so forth, will naturally follow if they can't get this inflation under control. Very positive for precious metals. I think positive for the crypto market. Probably inflation positive for the real estate market. Not so positive for stocks and bonds and some of the other areas that look like they're in bubble land.
Okay, so if I'm going to talk about if inflation rates go up, how does that affect precious metals like gold and silver?
Well, if we look at history and we just go back the last time inflation was trading at 7%, 1978, the metals market was trading right around $375 an ounce. Silver was trading right around $7, $8 an ounce. By 1980, the inflation rate had gone up to 14.5%. Interest rates, as everybody knows, went up to 15%, and the price of gold went from $375 all the way up to $850. The silver market went to $49. So gold and silver are typically very good hedges against inflation. A lot of people say higher interest rates hurt the precious metals market, and I kind of laugh. If interest rates were at 15% and the precious metals at the time was at an all-time high of $850 an ounce back then, interest rates played a role in getting the precious metals up to those numbers. Usually higher interest rates are bad for the stock market, great for, precious metals.
Okay, and we're not promising anything like that, but that's historically. One more thing is that what people don't realize is in around 2000, gold was $300 an ounce.
That's right.
And today it's about $1,800. And then people talk to me about Apple and all this. So I said, well, gold didn't do too bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you purchased an index fund, the S&P 500, and purchased an ounce of gold, the ounce of gold has outproduced the S&P 500 index, which just absolutely shocks people.
Right.
But if you look it up, it's true.
And the last question is, when people say gold is a barbaric relic, where does that come from?
Well,
it's true. It's it's old as the earth.
Yeah. When they say it's old, it is. It's we can go back 5,000 years when people first started using it as money, and I think that's really what it is. We buy a new watch, and in 4 years we're not happy with it. The day we purchased it, we were thrilled with it, and 4 years later we want a new watch or a new car or what have you. I think people believe that this thing, gold, that's been around this long, can be replaced by paper, and it can be replaced by digital things, but it still has stood this test of time. And the central banks are holding it. The JP Morgans are holding it. Why are they holding it? Because they know it's going to be around another 5,000 years.
Well,
I don't know if Bitcoin will be around.
Yeah. But the reason I know this is because I've actually traveled the world looking for, I've been to Argentina, bought a silver mine out there. But the thing that really convinced me was I went to Peru in 1989, I think, whatever it was. And I'm standing in the Andes, and I was about at 14,000 feet. I was passing out because I couldn't even breathe. And I look on this mountainside, and I see these little holes going up the mountainside. And so I asked the guide, I call him the little Inca, he's Peruvian. So what was that? He says, that was the Inca, or the indigenous people at that time, looking for gold and silver.
Right.
And I went, so this is before telegraph, this is before internet. What were these guys who are primitive people with no information from the outside world? They're as isolated as they can be. But they were tracking this vein going up this mountain. He says, and this other guy, he was a priest, he says, because gold are the tears of God. Human beings know intuitively, instinctively, that it's real, it's God's money. And so that's why I get up and I sound like some evangelist, gold and silver are God's money. I'm going, but I've seen it. Yeah. And I said, these Inca or indigenous people are looking for gold way up in the mountains. And I'm going, why is that? At the same time, they were doing the same thing all over the world.
All over the world. That's right.
And before there was radio, television, TV, all that stuff, they're already doing it. Then I go to Mongolia, this place called the Checkerboard. They're doing the same thing. They had little holes all over the place. I'm going, well, were the Mongolians communicating to the Peruvians? I don't think so. So there's something mysterious about gold, silver, and Bitcoin. So we're going to go for a break, but we're also going to come up, much like Bitcoin and many of the cryptos, there is a finite amount. There's other things called country risk. Why is gold always placed in the most dangerous places on earth? And if the country hates you, they won't let you touch their gold. So all of these factors are important when you consider, should I own a few gold coins or a few silver coins or bars of silver or gold? But it's not just, this is ancient stuff. And so when people say it's an ancient relic, whatever it is. It's gold and silver are God's money. When we come back, we'll talk to you more about how you can acquire it and how you should store it. We'll be right back.
Out here in Phoenix, the cost of rent has gone up 28%. Thanks to record inflation, almost every living expense has gone up. And inflation can erode your personal wealth too. That's why I think investing in assets that offer protection from inflation is critical. There's an overlooked asset that some experts say is a good store of wealth today. When volatility raged in 2020, its prices outpaced 10 other major asset classes, according to Citi. This investment isn't gold or some type of stock or bond. I'm talking about blue chip art. In fact, blue chip art prices outpaced S&P 500 by 164% from 1995 to 2021. And thanks to Masterworks, you can invest in million-dollar art. To add this asset to your portfolio, visit masterworks.io/richdad for priority access. That's masterworks.io/richdad. And see important disclosures at masterworks.io/disclaimer.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. This is the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes, Android, and YouTube, if we're not deplatformed. And you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio podcast at richdadradio.com. We archive our programs for one main reason, for education. I am not recommending you buy gold, silver, Bitcoin, or any of that stuff. We're purely educational. You make up your own mind. But if you have friends, family, or let's say business partners who need to be informed, just go to richdadradio.com, have them listen to this podcast again, and then discuss. Again, don't take our word for it. It's up to you to make up your mind. Our guest today is Kevin McDermott. He's a founder and operator of one of the largest precious metal firms in the U.S., Lear Capital. And again, we're all friendly in this business. There's a lot of people in the gold business, like my friend Peter Schiff. And for full disclosure, I do speak for Lear Capital, but I'm not compensated. I do it because I sincerely believe that everybody should have some real gold, silver, and Bitcoin in their portfolio that they control. The word is control. And the reason gold, silver, and Bitcoin are similar, or cryptos, is because of the limited supply. And the supplies are getting more limited. And as the worlds get more dangerous, gold and silver become more scarce because more and more bankers are holding on to it. But also, for some reason, gold and silver are always deposited in the most dangerous places on earth, in dangerous countries. So all of these are factors that go into when I sit on Lear Capital and Fox Television and I say, I buy silver. There's a reason for it, and not because I'm getting compensated. One big reason I recommend silver is, as Kevin already mentioned, not too long ago in the 80s, silver was $50 an ounce. And gold was like $800. Today, gold is at $1,800, but silver is now $25 an ounce. And silver is an industrial metal. It means it's used in batteries, solar, all this stuff, and there's less of it. So when I say silver at $25 an ounce, that's like saying Apple at $50 a share, or Bitcoin at $3,000 a share. That's how I look at it. So with that said, our guest today is Kevin McDermott, again, founder of Lear Capital. I speak for him, not compensated. And he has an offer for Rich Dad listeners. So what is the offer there, Kevin?
Well, we have a couple of things. I always like to do something special for you. We have the special report, inflation, the tax you didn't know you were paying. And on top of that, we have our gold and silver investment guide, all of it completely free. And then for your listeners, if they give us a phone call on our 800 number that I'll give away, we're going to give away up to $75 of free shipping and insurance on their first order.
Wow. $75 on the shipping?
$75 on the shipping and the insurance if they mention your name when they give us a phone call, or if they want to move their retirement account over to a precious metals retirement account, we'll again give them up to $75 to cover any of the fees that are charged there.
That's big, because that's one of the crypto guys go, well, you're going to pay for storage, you're going to pay for shipping. That's true. But so what?
Yeah, small price to pay. We're happy to help. Again, just mention Robert Kiyosaki. When you call 1-800-511-1960, 800-511-1960, and we'll get out all the free information. And then if you decide to do business, we're happy to give up the $75 on free shipping or for the retirement plan.
And again, once again, we're not recommending anything. We're purely educational, informational. One more thing is that there's a thing called numismatic, because I see that on television all the time. What is numismatic gold and silver coins and stuff like that? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, the numismatic coins are typically the coins minted in gold prior to 1933. That was real money by the United States government. So you have $20 St. Gaudens, $20 Liberties, things like that. And for silver, the 90% silver coins were all the way up until 1964. So any coin minted prior to 1964 had 90% silver content, and we consider those numismatic coins. Some of them are very close to the spot price of gold or silver, so they have lower values, even though they're 100 plus years old, some of them. And others are extremely rare and cost a lot of money. So one would be a collector coin. The other you could use as an investment as well.
Yeah, numismatic, I stay away from them because you have to be pretty smart. You have to know the history of what coin was, how many were minted, the condition and all that. I just want bulk. That's right. All I want. And I hurt right now because he talks about 1964. When I heard they were shifting, they were taking the silver out of silver coins, I used to go to the bank. I'd take $1, I'd trade it in for dimes, nickels, and then I'd find the quarters and dimes with the copper tinge. That was fake money, and I was saving all the real silver coins because I was such a little pack rat. And in 1965, I went to school in New York, and I came back home, and I asked my mom, I said, what happened to my coin collection? She says, well, I spent it.
Yeah.
So you just brought back bad memories. Got to see my therapist now because my mother spent my coin collection.
Yeah.
She didn't appreciate the numismatic value.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of those books put together where, the old books where people put in the holes, to collect those coins, valuable today.
And let me just say this much, the guy, I call him the old Inca, he says, gold and silver are God's money. Humans have intuitively known it's real. But what happens is when we get educated, we're kind of, save dollars. We're not taught, no financial education in school, and wonder why we have such a gap between rich and poor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Anyway, what's happening in the markets? Well, when I speak about gold and silver being deposited in the worst places on earth, is there some truth to that?
Well, I think so. I think a lot of the worst places on earth also have people who want real money because if they have to leave the country, and we've seen a lot of that happen, their dollar isn't worth anything. They can pile a plane full of their paper money, but that might not be worth anything. But if they put gold in that plane and fly away, even though it's a little heavy, that is real money, and they can go any place in the world and it's all the same value. So you kind of want something that's real if your company's held up on stilts and can be tipped over fairly quickly, right? So I think that's one of the main reasons.
Yeah, and what I say to people is gold is for saving, silver is for spending. And today it's $24 an ounce. And it used to be 50. So I keep saying, well, buy more silver. You don't know which it's okay.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about silver right now is when you look at the gold and silver ratio, it's running around 75. Normally, it's around 50. So the gold market.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It's the price of gold divided by the price of silver is a gold to silver ratio. Usually, that ratio is going to run around 50-1. So 50 ounces of silver would equal 1 ounce of gold. Right now, we're at around 75 ounces to every ounce of gold. If that ratio were to move back to its historic average, the price of silver would go from $24 up to $36, which is still below what we saw in 2010 when silver ran up to $47 an ounce. So we've got a long way to go in the silver market before it's anywhere near its peak and before it's to its average. And that's with gold standing still, right? I believe that it will go higher this coming year with all the inflation. Bank of America put it at 22.50. So if you start thinking about the ratios at those numbers, then you can get into the 40s on the silver market. But I feel very comfortable at $35 an ounce.
$40 for silver, possibly.
That's right.
Okay. So the other thing, too, is it true that as we shift more to batteries and electric cars and solar panels, is silver used in that?
Yes, they're used in the batteries. They're used a lot in the solar industry. The solar industry this next year is estimated to grow by around 13 to 18%, depending on who you're taking into consideration with their forecast. If that happens, you have millions of ounces of silver that are going to be used in solar panels. Solar panels do not work without silver, so it's a requirement at this particular point until they come up with something different to get those solar panels to work. And green energy is a hot topic in solar electric cars. So I believe that the industrial demand side of the equation for silver is going to continue to grow.
Right. And another complaint is that, people talk about, well, you have to store the stuff, which is a good idea. And don't tell people you store it at home because you'll be visited immediately. So
Right.
How do people store, if you have like 10 coins, you can hide it in your sock drawer.
Sure.
But what happened for Kim and I, we used to hide it in our closet in La Jolla till we left the Communist Republic of California for the Communist Republic of Oregon. But eventually, we don't save dollars. We use debt for money. We borrow. We buy real estate. And the cash flow is shifted into gold and silver.
Right.
And what happened was pretty soon the gold and silver pile got so big, we had to go look for professional storage facilities. Can you explain that service?
Sure. So a couple of different places. Like you said, if you have a small amount, you can easily store that at home, especially gold. The second thing people do is go get a safety deposit box. So safety deposit boxes, the entire time I've been doing this, I've never seen anyone lose their valuables from their safety deposit box. And once you outgrow your safety deposit box, then there's a few firms that I trust that do a great job. One is Brinks, and they have some locations in California, Utah, New York, and other places in the country. And then a company called Delaware Depository, which is what the government uses for the backing of physical metals for futures contracts. So their security is extremely high, similar to Brinks. Their fees run about 0.3% per year on the value of the metal. So that's what you would expect to pay.
Yeah. And there's one more thing about, that people are crossing the border from all over the world because Biden opened up the border. And the thing that I liked about gold when I was traveling the world, a lot of people carried gold because gold is flight capital. You can spend it anywhere. You know what I mean?
That's right.
No matter where you go in the world, somebody will take it. Is that true? And silver.
That's right. We tell people, look, you can't take your stock or your real estate and go anywhere in the world. A diamond you can, hard to value, but a piece of gold has the same value basically everywhere in the world. I mean, it's denominated in US dollars, so it's fairly easy to figure out what the gold is worth and then convert it over to whatever currency you're going to be at. Everywhere in the world, gold is the exact same price. So easy to store, easy to kind of move around.
When I first started out, because I'm so pessimistic, I used to carry a couple of gold coins in my pocket. Now, obviously, I don't do that today because that would be advertising another robbery out there. So I just started moving my gold. I mean, I don't recommend my formula. We use debt for money. We buy real estate and the cash. We don't save money. We save gold, silver. And it piled up so fast on us.
Yep.
It was shocking. So one day I was in Singapore and I went to this private air terminal and this private jet comes piling up. The door opens and these boxes, green and gold boxes, start coming off. And I asked a Jewish guy from the Israeli, it's an Israeli company. I said, "What are you guys doing?" He says, "Gold flies in from all over the world."
Oh, yeah.
In their jets, and they just store it here. I'm going, holy, do you know what I mean? You go, I thought I saw Jesus or something. Like, holy mackerel, these guys have that much gold and silver hiding? And so that was a whole nother educational process for Kim and myself. Where do the rich hide their gold and silver? And I'll tell you what, it ain't in America.
Yeah, a lot of Swiss banks, the old Swiss, Israel, all over the world. It's amazing what people do with their precious metals. Bury in their backyard, to store it off in a Swiss bank account. We've seen it all.
Yeah. So anyway, with Rich Dad, we like people to dream big. So dream, one day your jet taxiing up, door opens, and your gold and silver gets stuffed in a vault someplace else in the world. Then you've made the big time.
That's right.
So anyway, Kevin, I really appreciate your input. Again, give us how do we get in touch with you, and what are your reports?
Sure. So we have inflation, the tax you didn't know you were paying, free report, along with our gold and silver investment guide. And then please, if you're going to call everyone out there, mention Robert, and we're going to give away up to $75 for free shipping and insurance on your first order, and $75 if you would like to start an IRA or transfer your IRA. We'll help you with the storage fees there as well. Give us a phone call at 1-800-511-1960, 800-511-1960, and we'll get the information out for free and hopefully educate you a little bit more on the precious metals market.
Yeah, and don't be an idiot. I was at this seminar once. Someone mentioned the guy. He stood up and he said, I keep my gold at home. I'm going, are you nuts? Are you nuts? Do you know what I mean? So that's why the Bitcoin guys are right. You got to pay storage fees. Well, let me tell you what. I'll pay that storage fee all day long because it's worth my life. And so what you're offering here is the fee to ship it is also expensive. Because the Bitcoin guys are correct. It's expensive. But right. I'd rather have that. I'd rather have it both. I have gold, silver, Bitcoin, and all this stuff. I just don't trust the government. If you trust the government, save dollars and take laps on your rosary beads and pray. So, Kevin, thank you for all the years of friendship and your professionalism. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, too. Thanks a lot for having me.
And we come back with the final words. And Dina, thank you very much. You're the best, Dina. Dina is my contact here. She's fabulous. All right, so we'll be right back with the final words from Rich Dad. Take care, you guys. Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. I want to thank Kevin DeMeritt, DeMeritt, the founder and operator of one of the largest precious metal firms in the U.S. And there's a lot of great guys out there. I do business with Peter Schiff, but he doesn't put me on television, so I don't go on his program. It's about Peter Schiff, not me. So, Peter, you hear that? And then there's Dana Samuelson. He's out of Austin, Texas. I buy a lot of gold and silver from him. And then Jerry Williams here, American Precious Metals. I talk to these guys all the time because gold and silver and precious metals, they're measuring kind of the heartbeat of the country, of the world, really. Because I bought my first gold coin in Hong Kong, was a South African Krugerrand, was for $50. I still have that coin today. It's probably worth $1,800. So, it's not a bad buy. So with that said, Sarah, what do you think?
I just had a question, and I should have probably popped in when we had Kevin on. Do you have, when you're storing your gold, or when somebody stores their gold outside of the United States, do you have any fear of that government confiscating those storage places? Or, how do you trust it? Do you really trust it?
Well, that's why I have all these different guys who are a lot of people store outside. I don't trust my government. You see, what Kevin said was in 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt confiscated all gold. That's why, gold coins up to 33 are worth something and all this stuff. And then what happened is, in 1964, they took the silver out of our silver coins. So I don't trust the U.S. government. So it's a whole nother educational process. So what happened for Kim and I? Again, our formula is very simple. We're real estate guys. That's why Ken McElroy and Tom Wheelwright, my advisors, are crucial because debt is almost like free money. We use debt, and I know guys like the other guys that live debt free. Well, we don't do that, but you should. If you don't know how to handle debt, don't do what we do. Please don't. don't buy gold and silver and tell your friends about it.
Well, what caused me to ask that question is because he was saying it's silver. You know, you can't make a solar panel without silver. And with the push for this Green New Deal, da-di-da-di-da. What happens when the government says, we need your silver to fund the solar panels or, you know, whatever industry is happening at the time? Because silver is very scarce.
Right. It's always possible.
Yeah.
And like I said, as far as I know, the U.S. is the only government that's confiscated. So as Kim and I just started with little coins and stuff like this, and then pretty soon it got to be such a big problem because we use debt as money, and we don't save money because we don't need money. We save gold and silver and Bitcoin. Then the problem again, well, how do we move it? And that's a whole nother profession. And do it legally, because you can move money out of this country and do it illegally, and then you go to jail and become somebody's boyfriend, a girlfriend out there. It's not worth it. So there's professional people like Kevin McDermott, Dana Samuelson, he's out of Austin. I use him a lot. And Jerry Williams here, Peter Schiff. It's a whole industry based around that. We just don't have ETFs. Yeah. If you understand that one, it's because ETF is fake gold and silver and that stuff. Well, I don't have Bitcoin ETFs.
Right. I
just don't trust the people factor of it. So gold and silver are God's money. God placed it here. I know because I've climbed the mountainsides. And I tell you, when I was standing in the Andes of Peru and I saw these little holes going up the side of the mountain, before Pizarro came and killed all the Inca, this is the 1500s, whatever it was, I went, holy mackerel, there is something spiritual about gold and silver that humans know. But we're educated out of it. We're told to save dollars and all this stuff, which is why there's no financial education in school. We take fake money. The U.S. dollar is fake as far as I'm concerned. So is a yen, so is a peso, so is a euro. So there's a whole industry of psychopaths like myself, and best to find them. And there's some very reputable people who will advise you, professionally. And Numismatic, which is collectible coins, that's like, it's a 62 Corvette, a better car than a brand new Corvette. Well, I don't know the difference. I know one's 62, one's 72, whatever it is. But I don't know a good car from a bad car. Yeah. I don't know a rare coin but if you do, it's a whole nother science out there.
Right.
And there's people who do that work. But you got to find them. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll include, for our listeners and viewers, I'll include that Kevin's offer in the show notes. So if you missed it, you can read it at the bottom, because again, get their free report, learn about their services before making a decision, because like Robert always says, we don't endorse anyone.
No, we don't. And make your own mind up here.
Yeah.
Again, if you trust Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and this guy Fauci, save dollars. I don't. Thank you for listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show.